Good morning, you beautiful dickheads. In today's video, we are going to be discussing Bitcoin, how it has changed, where I think it's going, and my whole thoughts on the market overall. We are in beautiful Florianopolis, Brazil, and to me, this is what freedom looks like. So I first got into crypto back when I was in high school, and I was never the most academic scholar, so to say, between myself and my peers. But what really intrigued me when I first came across Bitcoin was obviously the money to be made. That's definitely a fact that we're not going to sit here and beat around the bush and act like I'm here for this revolution if I wasn't going to make any money, because I probably wouldn't be. The whole thought behind Bitcoin having a fixed supply, and to this day being the only finite asset on the planet known to man, it kind of intrigued me. And I come from a place of corruption. It's second nature. I saw it firsthand in Zimbabwe, where I was born. The government printed money out of thin air, and essentially what happened was our entire currency collapsed, and they were forced to switch over to the US dollar. And then after moving to South Africa as well, corruption played a massive role. And so a lot of people say to me, I don't understand crypto, like there's absolutely I don't get it. They see all these numbers and these big words and they're confused. I don't get the numbers either, let's be real. But for me, it's just one concept that you need to grasp, and that is that it has the potential to fight inflation, human error, greed, corruption, all of that shit. And once you understand that message, I feel like everything becomes so much more clearer. Now, I feel like that message has got lost, along the way in the last couple of years. I feel like today, most people getting into crypto are looking to turn $100 into $1 million the very next day. And that is just simply not the case here. That's not how this is gonna work. So when I first got into crypto, yes, there was that motivation of money, but a lot of the people getting in around me were getting in for the same reason of, let's fight back, let's give the little dude a voice. And essentially, how do we take away the power that we've given these motherfuckers at the top that, eat, sleep, repeat, whether you know it or not, they are shagging you with your legs behind your head. So for me, when I see people getting into the space nowadays, they don't understand that message. That message doesn't really cross their mind. And, that is why they are so fearful when they see a 15% negative candle and, they shit themselves, because they've got in for the gamble. They've got in to become a multi-millionaire overnight. And that's just not the case here. Once you understand why we buy this, why we are involved in the space, you're not so worried, about short-term price action, because the message is still there. And I feel like, especially with the US government, land of the free, home of the brave, being so threatened and so terrified by this, there's a reason for it. They want to talk about freedom this, freedom that all day, yet they don't want to give people free choice to be able to buy Bitcoin and crypto. And to me, that says a lot. It says that they are threatened. It says that it poses a real risk to their current financial institution. So while that is the main reason and the main purpose for Bitcoin, I feel like the message has got lost a little bit along the way, and we do need to re-educate people on why we actually like this stuff, why we buy it, why we hold it, why we believe in the movement, without sounding a bit too corny, because at the same time, when I got in, the Bitcoin maxis were in full force, and they made it a little like, oh, what the is this type shit. So my goal in the next upcoming, months, years, however long I continue to do content for, will be to get that message across there, because whether you know it or not, whether it's South Africa's government, the US, no matter who it is, it's all very corrupt when you break it down to the bone. And I'm not saying Bitcoin's perfect, because it's absolutely not. But when you look at its competitors, something like gold, just in terms of transport, gold, it's completely blown out the question. What are you gonna do? Stick a couple gold bricks in your suitcase every time you want to travel? That's not gonna work. And then on top of that, you have new deposits of gold constantly being found. So, it doesn't have that finite aspect versus Bitcoin that does. So, I'm not saying that Bitcoin's perfect, but right now, that is the only solution that we have. It's the only solution that we have to fight back against, what you might not consider a big deal. But going back on the freedom, everyone wants to talk about having freedom, and freedom is the most important thing in life. You have your money in the bank. It is not free. You want to talk about freedom. Why don't you want financial freedom? We've seen it in 2008. We've seen it in the Great Depression. Money is one of the biggest Ponzi's on the planet. It is essentially printed out of thin air. For the sake of this conversation, we're gonna go with 90% of money being printed and backed by nothing, and 10% is legit. 10% is in the bank, 90% in circulation, has absolute, it's made up, doesn't exist. So what happens then? If you have 12% of the population going to redeem 100% of their money from the bank, it fails. And that is essentially why we do need to get off of fiat currency, and it is already heading that way. I definitely don't think that CBDCs are the way forward, because, that's a whole nother video in itself, but it's at least a step in the right direction. So nowadays I do see a little too much, I want to become a millionaire overnight, and not enough of I get why I'm buying this shit. And I do think that we can change that. I do think it's a matter of education, and I feel like the reason, normies, regular people don't understand that is because when you go look at the people that make the kind of content on this stuff, they make it very boring, make it very bland, and to be fair, I don't want to watch that shit either. So goal with this channel, get the message out there a little more. With that being said, where do I see Bitcoin going in the future? Where do I see crypto as a whole going in the future? Message still remains the same, nothing has changed, and I feel like, even after COVID and after, now we have the banks going under, that message has become even stronger. It only took from 2008 to 2023 for people to forget that the banks completely just robbed them from underneath their feet, and people still pay that price to this day. It only took a couple years, but now you're having to see people start waking up, starting to realize it. And for me personally, this is just more fuel to the fire. Every time a bank goes under, withholds deposits, any of that kind of behavior, we see a spike in Bitcoin. So although the messages got diluted, I still firmly believe that we will continue to see the pump furiously in the future. I can't tell you what's going to happen today, what's going to happen tomorrow. We might go back all the way to 20K, 18K. I do believe that 15K was a gift. I don't think that we'll ever see that again. Exchanges were selling Bitcoin that they didn't have, and manipulation was through the roof. We had two black swan events back to back. We had Luna and then we had FTX. So that's what ultimately drove the price so low, and I think you should have seen that as a gift from the gods, because you might not ever get it again. So I can't tell you what's going to happen today. I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. I can tell you that you will see Bitcoin surpass all-time highs at some point in the future. As far as altcoins go, I believe that if you pick the right ones, this is where you're going to have your life-changing gains, because let's say Bitcoin goes to 100K from here. It's what, less than a 4x? I do see Bitcoin going past 100K. But you know what, 4 or 5x your money. Even if you put $1 million in, that's 4 or 5 mil, and you live in a place that taxes 40%, you're not left with much. Today's world is very different than it used to be. $1 million ain't gonna retire you, I hate to break it to you. So you're gonna have to find a happy medium between risk and reward and chucking your money into these low cap altcoins, which we'll get into some of my favorite ones in another video. But for me personally, this is where I've made the majority of my money, finding solid projects early on and betting on them early. And when you do watch them pull back 50%, because a lot of this is about timing, not to get scared, grip your balls and remember why you bought it. And I feel like that's another reason that people panic today, because they go and listen to some dude on Reddit tell them about pussy coin, and that ends up nuking 15%, and they're like, oh, pussy coin's down 15%, what am I doing? Because they have no idea why they bought it. They have no idea what it does, nothing like that. So my word of advice, and a lot of people like to shit on influencers, this is how I see influencers and their role in the space. An influencer's job is, supposedly supposed to be better than the average person. So they find a project, they let you know about it, and they tell you their thoughts on it. From there, you go and research the project yourself. The way I'm looking at it is, you have 1,000 projects to choose from. Hopefully the influencers can narrow that down into 100, 200, whatever. And from there, you go and cherry pick your projects. And now, of course, influencers aren't going to pick up everything. They're going to miss some shit, but I feel like that's a good place to start. So word of advice, don't just blindly follow calls and invest into these random coins. Take what those influencers are giving you, do your own research, and only execute if you feel comfortable in doing so. To conclude, I still think that there's a shitload of money to be made in this space. I think that really getting involved, doing your work, putting in the hours, researching the shit will pay off in the long run, and you will thank yourself. So if you want to learn how to make bread, how to maneuver this space, how to get it by the balls, hit the sub button, stay posted.